If you lived in North America between the 1960s and 1990s, chances are you didn't just see this bus, but actually rode it, heard the unmistakable diesel growl, and felt the metallic screech as it shifted gears at crowded intersections. For many, it was more than just a vehicle. It was the familiar sound of school mornings, the common sight of rush-hour streets, a memory from another time. That bus was the GM New Look bus, more affectionately known as the Fishbowl. But even though it once ruled the streets of countless cities across the continent, the real story of this machine remains largely untold. What made it so iconic? Why did a public transit vehicle leave such a lasting imprint on America's collective memory? Let's explore the journey of one of the most iconic buses ever built in American history. The 1950s marked a period of explosive growth in America. Cities expanded rapidly, urban populations surged, and daily transportation needs became a major challenge. The old-style, boxy, heavy post-war buses could no longer keep up with the pace of modern urban development. That was when General Motors decided to change the game. In 1959, GM officially introduced a completely new type of bus called the GM New Look Transit Bus. It made an immediate impression with its large, curved front windshield, offering an unprecedented wide field of view for both drivers and passengers. This distinctive design quickly earned it the nickname Fishbowl. But the New Look's breakthrough went far beyond appearances. It represented a shift in thinking, that buses should not just transport people, but be a more comfortable, integrated part of city life. GM aimed to create something not only visually appealing, but also efficient, easy to maintain, and adaptable to the diverse needs of cities across North America. The New Look was born during the peak of America's confidence in engineering and technology, and it was that belief that created an urban transportation icon that lasted nearly 3 decades. To create a bus that was truly different, GM did not just change its exterior design, but also re-engineered its structural core. Instead of the traditional body-on-frame layout commonly used in the transportation industry, GM adopted a monocoque concept, an idea originally rooted in aerospace. In this structure, the outer shell was not just a cover, but carried much of the load. As a result, the vehicle's weight was more evenly distributed, reducing pressure on each load point and allowing the bus to be lighter, less prone to structural fatigue, and more durable in daily operation. Thanks to this, maintenance reached a whole new level. A dented side panel could be removed on its own. A corroded roof section could be replaced without affecting the rest of the body. For repair shops, this was a major advantage. For urban transit systems, it meant saving both time and operational costs. Not only engineers, but also mechanics viewed the New Look differently. It was not an outdated heavy machine, but a product designed to last long, be easy to repair, and operate flexibly across various routes. And to make all of that possible, GM needed more than just smart engineering. They needed entirely new materials. Instead of using traditional heavy steel, GM shifted to aluminum alloy and fiberglass, two advanced materials at the time. Aluminum is significantly lighter than steel, while still providing the structural strength needed. This helped reduce the overall weight of the bus, which in turn improved fuel efficiency, lessened the strain on the drivetrain and braking systems, and extended the lifespan of mechanical components. Fiberglass was used in certain panels and roof sections where high structural load was not a concern, but resistance to corrosion was critical. In cities that used road salt during winter, this was a major advantage. Older buses often suffered severe rust damage after just a few years, while the new look held up far better over time. In addition, the use of easily molded materials like aluminum and fiberglass allowed GM to craft the signature smooth curves of the Fishbowl design. It not only delivered technical efficiency, but also created an unforgettable visual presence on the streets. But what truly made this bus an inseparable part of American urban life was the distinctive sound coming from the rear. It was a deep, confident growl produced by the Detroit Diesel 6 V71 engine. This was a two-stroke diesel engine with a V6 configuration and a displacement of 426 cubic inches, originally developed from military and heavy industrial applications. Its two-stroke design meant each cylinder fired on every revolution, creating a continuous rhythm of power and sound. This gave the bus smooth acceleration even when constantly stopping and starting in city traffic. The 6V71 was also equipped with a roots-type blower, a form of forced induction that pushed more air into the combustion chamber. Combined with an automatic transmission, this powertrain allowed the bus to operate with flexibility and dependability in conditions like gridlock, snow, or steep inclines. The rising roar of the engine during acceleration became a familiar part of daily life in cities like New York, Toronto, and Chicago, or anywhere the new look was in service. But more important was its practicality. The engine was easy to maintain, parts were readily available, and it could run reliably for millions of miles. This made the new look a backbone of public transit systems across North America for decades. Equipped with an Allison V-drive automatic transmission, the bus delivered smooth acceleration, consistent shifting, and excellent load handling in stop-and-go urban traffic. The rear-mounted drivetrain layout freed up passenger space, improved weight distribution, and made maintenance more accessible. On congested streets, slippery hills, or long downtown corridors, the new look proved it could operate continuously with minimal breakdowns. Whether in the snow and ice of northern Canada, the scorching heat of the American South, or the rush-hour chaos of major cities, it maintained dependable performance. It did not take long for cities both large and small to recognize the value it offered for public transit. New York, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Chicago, Los Angeles, and even smaller towns all had the Fishbowl as part of their bus fleets, but not all of them used the same version. What made the new look so adaptable was its flexible design and configuration, allowing it to serve a wide range of urban environments, from dense city centers to suburban routes. GM offered multiple length options, from the compact 35-foot model to the standard 40-foot version, and even articulated 60-foot buses for high-capacity routes. Some cities requested custom interior layouts, including softer seats, fast-folding doors, or climate-specific ventilation systems. Beyond the traditional diesel-powered models, a few rare variants were designed as electric trolleybuses, running on overhead wires in cities like Vancouver and Edmonton. Others were configured for longer suburban travel, with coach-style seating and enhanced suspension for comfort. This variety made the new look more than just a bus. It became a modular platform that could be tailored to each community's needs. It was not a one-size-fits-all solution, but a transit icon shaped by the cities it served. However, despite its modern appearance and flexible engineering, early versions of the Fishbowl came with some practical drawbacks that many drivers would not soon forget. The first and most noticeable issue was the lack of power steering. With a large steering wheel and oversized front wheels, drivers had to rely entirely on physical strength to maneuver the bus, especially when making tight turns or parallel parking near curbs. After a long shift, many drivers complained of shoulder pain and back fatigue. Power steering was only added in later versions, but for many, the early tank driving experience was unforgettable. Another controversial feature was the fishbowl-style curved windshield. While it offered excellent visibility and looked striking from the outside, it was made up of 6 separate curved glass panels. Cleaning it was time-consuming, and replacing even one panel was expensive and labor-intensive. On top of that, sunlight hitting the joints at certain angles could cause glare, reducing visibility during morning or evening rush hours. These inconveniences did not overshadow the overall success of the vehicle, but they did highlight the technological limitations of that era, and they also helped shape how future updates were developed to better serve both drivers and passengers. However, the greatest challenge for any vehicle is not just in its initial design, but in how well it withstands time and real-world operating conditions. The new look was no exception. One of the most common issues maintenance crews had to deal with was chassis rust. While the outer skin, made of aluminum and fiberglass, offered good corrosion resistance, the internal steel frame was still vulnerable to moisture and road salt, especially in areas with long, harsh winters. Water could seep into panel joints and accumulate inside structural gaps, leading to peeling paint, bubbling surfaces, and weakened integrity over time. Interior comfort also became a concern. Without air conditioning, the sealed space of a crowded bus could become stifling during summer months. Sliding windows and roof vents offered limited relief, particularly when the bus was stuck in traffic or idling at a stoplight. Noise from the rear-mounted engine was another drawback for passengers. The powerful sound of the 6 V71 might have been iconic from the outside, but for those seated near the engine compartment, it was simply too loud, making conversation difficult and rest nearly impossible. Despite the effects of time and harsh weather conditions, the GM new look remained renowned for its exceptional mechanical durability. Many units operated continuously for over 3 decades, far exceeding the average service life of a typical urban transit bus. Part of this longevity came from its sturdy monocoque construction, but it also reflected a design philosophy centered on repairability and refurbishment. When engines wore out, transit agencies could simply replace them. When the seats aged, new ones could be mounted onto the existing frames. In many cases, buses were repainted, and their floors and ceilings refreshed without needing a full replacement. As the cost of purchasing new buses continued to rise, many cities chose to rebuild their entire new-look fleets instead of buying new vehicles. Some units were even upgraded with features like LED lighting, modern audio systems, or retro-style paint jobs for use on sightseeing and heritage routes. Extending the life of these buses was not just about saving money. It also reflected a deep trust in the original quality that GM had built into them. But at a certain point, trust alone was no longer enough. As urban transit entered a new era, entirely different standards began to take hold. Starting in the early 1980s, expectations for transit buses began to shift dramatically. New accessibility regulations required low floors with no steps at the entryway. This made it easier for people with disabilities, the elderly, and parents with strollers to board and exit. However, the high-floor design of the new look could not accommodate these changes without a complete redesign of the chassis. At the same time, stricter standards for emissions, noise, and fuel efficiency were being introduced. Riders began demanding quieter, cleaner, and more comfortable vehicles. Yet the new look's architecture, developed in the 1950s, was no longer compatible with modern technologies in any practical or cost-effective way. In 1986, after nearly 30 years of continuous production, GM officially ended the new look bus line. It marked the close of a mechanical era, but not the end of the values it represented. Over more than 3 decades in service, the new look left a lasting impact not only in engineering, but also in the urban culture of North America. It was a familiar sight on every major route, the background sound of school mornings and the silent witness to millions of everyday moments. Even after disappearing from regular service, many new look buses were preserved by museums, vintage vehicle collectors, and transit agencies committed to honoring history. Some were restored and repurposed as tour buses, appearing in commemorative events and parades. They became ambassadors of nostalgia, connecting the past with the present. On online forums, the Fishbowl community still shares photos, stories, and recordings of the iconic Detroit Diesel 6V71 engine. For them, the new look was more than a vehicle. It was a vivid part of lived experience. And perhaps for that reason, the story of this bus continues to be told not just through technical specifications, but through memories and emotional ties from those who once rode it. Some vehicles are built to serve, and others go beyond their function to become true icons. The GM new look was one of the rare few that did both. It was not the fastest bus, nor the quietest or most luxurious, but it represented an era when mechanical craftsmanship, durability, and public service were the highest priorities, and it was that simplicity and effectiveness that earned it a lasting place in the history of public transportation. If you ever rode one of these buses, heard the 6V71 engine echoing through the city, or simply saw the curved glass catching the morning light, we invite you to share your story. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss more stories about classic automotive icons, unforgettable engineering, and the machines that time has yet to forget. Thank you for joining us in reliving the journey of a true four-wheeled legend.